Hey folks, here at OS Reviews. You're watching our video review of the Keydox X2. This is an Android TV box that's the current flagship for the manufacturer, and specs correlate to Android 4.4. It's a little bit outdated. We would have liked to see Android 5.0 Lollipop, but overall it still works decently. There's the Android Play Store on board. There's also 1 GB in the packaging. So taking a look at the design of the actual X2 first, it's Crop 660. You can see just how small this Android TV box is. The size for Android TV boxes have been getting progressively smaller and smaller, and of course we still prefer the actual box size placed onto a surface or a desk, and the design overall is definitely elegant. On the back you have access to the various ports. There's also an optical port for enhanced audio quality, Ethernet port, H to the design. We think it looks elegant. It's not going to take up too much space either when you place it next to your TV. Running an app that does that, you have access to a mouse key that you can tap, menu key, which is standard for Android, a home key, a back key, a 5-way navigation toggle, relatively responsive and tactile, as well as dedicated hotkeys for media controls, music, web, and app. Next, we're going to take a quick look at the interface connected onto a projector, and as you can see, the user interface is a vanilla build of Android 4.4.2, and this is a juxtaposition with previous Keydox TV boxes we've seen. Great if you plan on customizing your TV box with your favorite programs, applications, and widgets. Stock build of Android 4.4.2. With that being said, using the bundled remote becomes a bit more difficult just because instead of having the air mouse functionality where you can just wave the remote around to have the cursor move on screen, instead if you tap on the mouse key here, you have to becomes a little tedious as opposed to a grid-like UI that makes it more simple in terms of having a carousel to navigate through using the 4-way navigation toggle. But anyways, you have all the extras on here, including Wi-Fi, and there are very few preloaded applications out of the box, which I think extras, as well as a file manager to view back your images and video files if you have a USB thumb drive or a hard drive connected. There's also, weirdly enough, a application for a camera, even though this TV box does not come with a camera as part of the hardware, so we're not really sure why that's there. There's also a voice search, all the standard features like music, some of the other program settings. Other than that, it's very clean. The only real application that comes installed out of the box is Kodi, and this allows you to stream music as well as programs, videos, and internet radio after you've connected to Wi-Fi internet. For instance, I can select through different videos by going left and right through these taskbars, and then I can select through my favorite channels and view them back, and it basically plays back instantly. And you can install your favorite programs like BBC or even ABC. There are apps in the Google Play Store, and those work flawlessly as well over internet streaming. So going back into the home screen here, you can check out some other extras on here, including the browser. It works pretty nicely as well. Text entry is going to be challenging on here just like it is on most other comfortable. I would recommend plugging in a USB keyboard that makes the experience a lot better, and it seems to support virtually any plug-and-play keyboard that we kind of threw at. So here we have the New York Times fully loaded. The browser is actually set to load the desktop version of Pages by default, which is great because you have the ability to browse through all the complex pages, sites, and view back images and videos. And at 1 GB, the RAM is also a little bit low, so do expect to wait 2 to 3 seconds longer for complex pages like the New York Times to fully load. But afterwards, you can search through things, read your favorite texts and articles, and everything works flawlessly. For navigation purposes, I would that makes things a bit easier to go left, right, up, and down, and through the pages. As you can see, it's loading pretty back images, videos that are again integrated into the pages, so that means I can visit youtube.com and directly play back some video clips if I want to do that. And that works pretty decently. You have to wait for about 2 to 3 seconds for the video to buffer, but afterwards it does a nice job. Audio quality is also pretty decent. When it comes to gaming, I wouldn't really recommend doing that on the Keydox X2 just because it doesn't come with Bluetooth as a feature on board. So if you do plan on connecting it to like a controller, it's going to be a lot more difficult. You have to use a USB socket, which is not as convenient. It's going to tie you down in terms of the distance you are from your TV and then sitting on your couch. So I would recommend for another version if you do want to do that. During operation, the X2 remained fairly cool in temperature, and again, overall it's pretty snappy and responsive. Some final tidbits I wanted to add: it does support Miracast, just like on some other Keydox devices we've seen in the past. So essentially it uses Wi-Fi to connect to your supported Android phone or tablet. It allows you to mirror whatever content is being displayed on your phone screen onto your television, which is pretty cool. It definitely drains the battery a little bit faster on your phone, but overall on here the reaction speed is pretty quick, and it doesn't really have a delay between what's happening on screen for your phone and what's happening on screen for your TV, as long as your Wi-Fi connection is fast enough. It uses Wi-Fi Direct. Otherwise, the remote is also pretty sensitive. You don't have to be in a direct box, which is actually sitting behind me, and it's still working just fine. And overall, again, it's a decent Android TV box at this price point. I think it has a compelling design. It doesn't have the most feature-rich set in the world, although it does support a wide array of video codecs, which makes it $58. I think that the X2 Android TV box by Keedox is a steal, just because it's great for watching any HD television shows. It also supports 4K with a wide array of video formats, which is great if you want to play back images originally stored on an SD card or a local library controller for a relatively inexpensive price on Amazon. The only limitation here is the lack of Bluetooth, which is something that we would have liked to see, but overall the interface is clean and the Android TV box runs smoothly. To learn more information about the X2, be sure to read our full RIN review. This has been our video. Thanks for watching your OS review.